All right, guys, so the president came out with another video message that I thought was on point. President Trump is doing exactly what he needs to be doing at this point in order to gain some points in the court of public opinion. Speaking of courts, President Trump also was impeached today by the House, in which there's going to be a trial in the Senate. So I will be discussing that today as well. I have a live stream tonight at 9 with Mario Fratto. I'm pretty sure you guys remember him. Mario is a former defense attorney who joins the channel quite a bit to talk about this stuff. So I got him on. Check that out tonight. We're going to talk more detail about the impeachment. So like I was saying, President Trump has released a very good message that I think is the most unifying message that I have heard since this whole Capitol stuff started. Right? Joe Biden and Kamala in the left tries to brand themselves as wanting unity when their messaging is not talking about unity at all. On the other hand, President Trump, who they're framing as the bad guy, a fascist, a bloodthirsty dictator, so to speak, is coming out and giving clear, unequivocal messages of unity. And I think this is exactly what he needs to do because, guys, the game right now for President Trump is really to try to, one, paint himself in a better light in the court of public opinion. That's the first thing. And then two, win over the senators who are going to be voting on potentially barring him from ever running for office again in the Senate, right? He needs to try to sway those people at this point because then that at least gives him room to run again in 2024 if he so chooses. But he has to make sure that the Senate does not choose to convict, and their decision basically is probably going to be off the court of public opinion. You know, and it's kind of sad that President Trump has to release videos like this that basically probably won't be picked up by the major news stations, and he can't put on his Twitter, and it just has to kind of leak through the web, which is really weird and just sad for a sitting president. I think that this whole censorship thing is out of control, but let's just listen to the president's message and go from there.
My fellow Americans, I want to speak to you tonight about the troubling events of the past week. As I have said, the incursion of the U.S. Capitol struck at the very heart of our republic. It angered and appalled millions of Americans across the political spectrum. I want to be very clear. I unequivocally condemn the violence that we saw last week. Violence and vandalism have absolutely no place in our country and no place in our movement. Making America great again has always been about defending the rule of law, supporting the men and women of law enforcement, and upholding our nation's most sacred traditions and values.
All right, so I think this is important because, one, he's addressing the violence part of it, right? The left is trying to paint president as condoning violence and being a violent person. He came out, he unequivocally has denounced any violence associated with the movement. He's saying, listen, nobody who's in this movement believes in political violence. I think it's very important for him to make clear, right? Unequivocally. And then the second part of this is he talks about law enforcement. If you guys don't know by now, there's I think a couple officers. Well, one committed suicide and another one actually was killed because he was hit on the head with a fire hydrant. So rest in peace to that fallen officer. And what President Trump is addressing here is that, listen, you know, we are the party that has historically backed law enforcement. We don't need to turn away from that now. We still need to remember that, you know, that's who we were during the BLM protests. That's who we are, even when our side is involved in, you know, protests and confrontations with law enforcement. So again, this is great messaging from the president here.
Mob violence goes against everything I believe in and everything our movement stands for. No true supporter of mine could ever endorse political violence. No true supporter of mine could ever disrespect law enforcement or our great American flag. No true supporter of mine could ever threaten or harass their fellow Americans. If you do any of these things, you are not supporting our movement, you are attacking it, and you are attacking our country.
Now, what he said there as well, that's also true. Because we already know, guys, like, we're not going to get the benefit of the doubt from the leftist media. We already know they're looking for us to be violent. They're looking for us to lash out, right? We don't get the same privileges as BLM, right? We don't have SJW protest privilege. We don't. Okay. And because we don't have protest privilege, we have to realize that, you know, when we protest, that we can't have any violence at all and that we can't condone it because we're not going to get the benefit of the doubt. Look at what happened at the Capitol, right? Again, this is great messaging here from President Trump because any type of violence does hurt the movement. Basically, what you're doing is that you're confirming what the left has basically told America that the right and Trump supporters are. They're just violent white supremacists, right? And last thing you want to do is confirm that because they're going to say, look, we're right. We're right. You see, that's who they are. We've been telling you guys that's who they are. Now, up until this point, for the last 4 years, it's been impossible for them to really prove that theory, right? For the most part. But, you know, this Capitol protest, you know, has given us some ammunition that they otherwise shouldn't be having.
We cannot tolerate it. Tragically, over the course of the past year, made so difficult because of COVID-19, we have seen political violence spiral out of control. We have seen too many riots, too many mobs, too many acts of intimidation and destruction. It must stop. Whether you are on the right or on the left, a Democrat or a Republican, there is never a justification for violence.
See, this is what I'm talking about. This is a truly unifying message here. He's saying, listen, whether you're Democrat or Republican, there's never a role for violence. We must condemn all violence. And that's the difference between Trump and Biden and Kamala right now in terms of messaging. Because the left doesn't want to acknowledge that their ish stinks. They don't want to acknowledge it. They don't want to acknowledge that they have extremists on their side. They don't want to acknowledge that. They want to act like everything is all rosy on the left and it's all the extremists in the country are just right wingers. And that's entirely not true. Because again, we've seen protests and riots that have burned down cities across the country for like 6, 7, 8 months straight. But yet Kamala and Joe are talking about unifying, but yet they won't even call out their own BS. That's the first part of really wanting to unify, right? Like if you really want to move forward, even if it's like a relationship, right? Like these politicians have a relationship with the American people. If you're in a relationship with somebody, if you want to move forward in a relationship, right, after one of you messed up, right, the easiest way to do that is to acknowledge your faults. For each side to be able to acknowledge that, okay, I was wrong. You know, you say you was wrong. I'm saying I'm wrong. Let's move forward. That's what you should be doing. That is what President Trump is doing right now. Biden and Kamala telling people, well, if there was black people or if that was BLM, they would have been shot. That's the message they giving out. And then they saying, oh, no, we're trying to unify. The left does not want unity. The left always wants constant drama, right? Even when everybody's trying to tone it down right now, you see President trying to tone it down. Everybody trying to tone it down. They want to keep ratcheting it up. And they want to point to the right and say, oh, these guys are the terrorists. These guys are the extremists.
No excuses, no exceptions. America is a nation of laws. Those who engaged in the attacks last week will be brought to justice. Now I am asking everyone who has ever believed in our agenda to be thinking of ways to ease tensions, calm tempers, and help to promote peace in our country. There has been reporting that additional demonstrations are being planned in the coming days, both here in Washington and across the country. I have been briefed by the U.S. Secret Service on the potential threats. Every American deserves to have their voice heard in a respectful and peaceful way. That is your First Amendment right. But I cannot emphasize that there must be no violence, no law breaking, and no vandalism of any kind. Everyone must follow our laws and obey the instructions of law enforcement. I have directed federal agencies to use all necessary resources to maintain order.
This is good as well. The main reasons is because if something happens on Inauguration Day, the left can't come out and say that Trump encouraged it or that Trump, gave these people the green light to do this. When he has this video out right now, unequivocally, he's saying that I cannot emphasize enough, there needs to be no violence on Inauguration Day. That's what he's saying. Okay? So this is a good move from Trump. I like this. I like this. And guys, I think Trump's at his best when he's like this, when he's straightforward to the point. Has a measured and concise message, whether that's the third debate, whether that's when he came out for the $2,000 stimulus checks and cleaning up the pork and the spending bill, or whether he's giving his speech right here. Those are measured, controlled Trump that I think is truly where Trump is at his best.
In Washington, D.C., we are bringing in thousands of National Guard members to secure the city and ensure that a transition can occur safely and without incident. Like all of you, I was shocked and deeply saddened by the calamity at the Capitol last week. I want to thank the hundreds of millions of incredible American citizens who have responded to this moment with calm, moderation, and grace. We will get through this challenge just like we always do. I also want to say a few words about the unprecedented assault on free speech we have seen in recent days. These are tense and difficult times. The efforts to censor, cancel, and blacklist our fellow citizens are wrong, and they are dangerous. What is needed now is for us to listen to one another, not to silence one another. All of us can choose by our actions to rise above the rancor and find common ground and shared purpose. We must focus on advancing the interests of the whole nation, delivering the miracle vaccines, defeating the pandemic, rebuilding the economy, protecting our national security, and upholding the rule of law. Today, I am calling on all Americans to overcome the passions of the moment and join together as one American people. Let us choose to move forward united for the good of our families, our communities, and our country. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
Yeah, that was perfect. That was perfect. I mean, he came together at the end. He said, we got to start listening to each other, which is huge. He's 100% correct about that. We don't listen to each other enough, right? But, yeah, man, that was good. I thought it was perfect. I think that's a clear demonstration of Joe Biden and Kamala how to actually give a unifying message. I think it was perfect. I thought it was on point. I think these type of messages are going to do him well. He should keep doing these, actually. He should actually keep acting like he's president to a certain extent. He should keep giving these addresses to the nation in order to maintain popularity, to maintain relevance. But he needs to keep them kind of like this, right? In a way that's very prejudicial. That way, it can put more pressure on the Republicans not to vote to convict, right? That's the main thing. Voting to convict basically is them saying Trump can never run again. And they're going to calculate that based off public opinion, based off your opinion, okay? That's what they're going to do, because they know that if they vote to convict and this man can never run again, this could be the end of the GOP, right? There's so many people that'll leave the party, it won't even be a party. So we have to make sure that they understand that that could be a consequence if they move forward with this. Messages like this from President Trump are going to help him a lot when it comes to that. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.